Coming up on Jerusalem Dateline, runners take over the streets of Israel's ancient capital in Jerusalem's 14th annual marathon. Plus, hitting hard in Gaza, the IDF continues taking territory for security zones. And Israel's ambassador to the U.S. speaks with CBN President Gordon Robertson about the nations taking a stand against the International Criminal Court. And one freed hostage, Sagui Dekel Chen, spreading hope through music. All this and more coming up on Jerusalem Dateline. Hello and welcome to this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell, coming to you here at the Jaffa Gate, where you see thousands of runners participating in the 14th annual Jerusalem Marathon. We'll have more about the marathon later in the program, but first, here's the latest from our CBN News Desk. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu landed in Budapest Thursday for an official 4-day visit to Hungary. It's Netanyahu's first visit to Europe since the International Criminal Court, the ICC, issued an arrest warrant in November 2024 for war crimes in Gaza. Immediately after that decision, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban extended an invitation to Netanyahu and criticized the ICC's move as shameful and absurd. Shortly after Netanyahu's arrival today, Hungary announced it's pulling out from the ICC.
You've just taken a bold and principled position on the ICC, and I thank you, Victor. This is not only important for us, it's important for all democracies. Before his departure, Netanyahu declared Israel has switched gears in its fight against Hamas.
We are now dividing the strip and increasing the pressure step by step so that they will give us our hostages. And as long as they do not give them to us, the pressure will increase until they do. We're determined to achieve the objectives of the war, and we're acting relentlessly and with a clear line and a clear mission. And with God's help and that of our heroic soldiers, we will also achieve them.
The IDF is closing in on controlling 30% of Gaza, and Israel is moving to create large buffer zones separating the two. Israel's defense minister now says Israeli troops are out to, quote, capture extensive territory that will be added to the state of Israel's security areas. Netanyahu believes this is the best way to free the remaining hostages since Hamas has rejected yet another ceasefire proposal from Israel. The Israeli deal would see 11 hostages freed, but Hamas is only offering 4. On another diplomatic front, former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee is one step closer to becoming America's ambassador to Israel. The Senate Foreign Relations Committee voted Wednesday to advance his nomination to the full Senate for a confirmation vote. Hamas has released a corrected list of Gazans killed in the war, which shows that 72% of the fatalities are men between the ages of 13 and 55, a category that aligns with Hamas combatants. Fact checkers have for months been saying Hamas's estimates of Gazans killed in the war are inflated, and its claims that 70% of the casualties are women and children is false. Israel is continuing its aggressive new policy to strike Hamas with growing force until the terror group gives up the remaining hostages, disarms, and leaves Gaza.
We've attacked more than 600 terror targets throughout Gaza. We've eliminated more than 250 terrorists, including 12 senior members of the Hamas terrorist organization and in its government branch. All of them are terrorists. All of them took part in the October 7th massacre.
A new Israeli strategy is to gain control of more sections of Gaza if Hamas refuses to surrender the hostages. This leaves whole cities like Rafah cut off from the rest of Gaza, and Hamas is reportedly facing major problems inside its organization following Israeli assassinations of top leaders. Meanwhile, Iran is now reportedly pulling its forces out of Yemen amid the U.S. airstrikes. The bombing campaign is aimed to stop the Houthis from firing its ballistic missiles at Israel and shipping in the Red Sea. The Houthis have caused a severe disruption to global trade. President Trump says he believes the Iranians will come around to direct talks with the U.S. despite their public denials they won't talk to America. The White House is demanding Iran give up its nuclear program. Trump also says Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu may come to Washington again as soon as next week. It's another sign of the improved relations since the Biden administration. Also in Washington, Senator Bernie Sanders continues his efforts to break off American military support for Israel. He put forth 2 bills to stop $8.8 billion worth of U.S. arms sales. Both bills were defeated by more than 80 votes against them. Still, 15 Democrats stood with efforts to stop the arms sales, and Axios reported the vote shows the divisions in the party over the war in Gaza at the Israeli government. CBN President and CEO Gordon Robertson recently spoke with Yechiel Leiter. He's the new Israeli ambassador to the U.S. Here's an excerpt from that conversation. Born in Scranton, Pennsylvania, Ambassador Yechiel Leiter answered the call of his heritage and immigrated to Israel at 18. He eventually would serve as chief of staff to then Finance Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, where he helped shape Israel's economic and political landscape. Beyond his public service, however, Leiter's story is marked by profound personal sacrifice. As the IDF responded after October 7th, his eldest son, Major Moshe Leiter, father of 6 and a commander in Israel's elite Shaldog unit, gave his life in Gaza. He led one of the first units inside Gaza in order to defeat Hamas and help free the hostages. Now, as the ambassador steps onto the world stage, Leiter carries with him both the mantle of diplomacy and the heart of a grieving father, a testament to the enduring spirit of a nation. He speaks with conviction, addressing regional challenges, advocating for Israel's security, and championing the cause of peace through initiatives like the Abraham Accords. He also brings a deep faith in God rooted in the Hebrew Scriptures, and now he represents the Jewish state at one of the most critical times in its modern history.
Well, Yechiel Leiter is Israel's ambassador to the United States. He joins us now from our bureau in Washington, D.C. for more on this story and for more on Israel and the Middle East. Ambassador, it's a great honor to have you with us today.
Good morning, Gordon. It's great to be with you. I prefer to be in Virginia Beach, but I'll have to settle for Washington this morning. Well,
maybe next time you can come down, and we'd love to host you here at Regent University to talk to the students. I think it would be a great thing.
I'd love to do that.
Let's talk about Hungary and the stand against the International Criminal Court. Do you think other European nations will follow suit?
Well, European nations indeed, but not only. I think it's really imperative for all people bearing a good conscience, a moral conscience, to pull out of the ICC. They've become a kangaroo court and the biggest purveyors of anti-Semitism in the world. You can't put the stain of Cain on the forehead of the Prime Minister of Israel and then expect anti-Semitism not to soar around the world. And that's what's happening because of the ICC and the ICJ. We have to stop this nonsense of kangaroo courts branding Israel, an apartheid or genocide state. We have done everything in our power to limit the casualties in Gaza. The people responsible for the deaths in Gaza are the Hamas. And they're the people that we're fighting, the terrorists we're fighting. We're fighting those terrorists on behalf not only of ourselves, but on behalf of every moderate in the Middle East and, frankly, on behalf of humanity.
How did the ICC get to this position? Because, I think it's lost on the world stage and in the conversation that the chief prosecutor, he's British, but his parents are from Pakistan. He's Muslim. And then the chief justice, who was part of that conviction, he also is Muslim. He's now in the government in Lebanon. Why doesn't everybody recognize that it was rigged from the beginning?
Well, it's also been released that the chief prosecutor is nothing less than a sexual predator. And it's quite possible that he tried to deflect attention from his own issues with the law and directed it towards Israel, which is a common step that anti-Semites use, deflect onto the Jews. But we won't let it stand. We're going to persevere. Hungary is the first country. I think there are going to be other countries to follow. And the president, President Trump, has set the precedent for all of this with his executive order. actually applying sanctions to the chief prosecutor of the ICC. In a few weeks, that executive order is going to be expanded, I understand, from the White House to include anybody having dealings with the ICC, anybody in the ICC, and anybody dealing with the ICC. So I think the president has taken the lead on this. Viktor Orban of Hungary has followed through, and I think we're going to see other countries follow through as well in the next couple of days.
Let's turn our attention to Gaza, the hostage negotiation, the ongoing war. What's Israel's long-term strategy?
Well, first of all, we have a short-term strategy, and that's getting the hostages out. I mean, this is just a really mind-boggling situation. We're in the 21st century, and this isn't a bank robbery that's gone wrong and hostages have been taken. This is a group of terrorists supported by Iran that took hostages, keeping them underground in dungeons for the sake of exacting terror upon our civilians, releasing their prisoners who are guilty in many cases of killing innocent people. So we first have to do everything we possibly can to have our hostages released by these terrorists. We're applying maximum military pressure right now. We've supported the efforts, really the superhuman efforts of Steve Witkoff, the president's personal envoy to the Middle East, negotiating through Qatar and Egypt with the Hamas to get our hostages out. So that's primary. Long term is to ensure that Gaza will never again become a Hamastan, an Iranian base to launch missiles and carry out terror attacks against our civilians.
This is a very personal story with you. You lost your son, Moshe, and it's an incredible story. I think the whole world needs to know. Here, he had spent 15 years in Special Forces. He had witnessed what doctors were doing to save lives on a special mission, and so he decided to go into medical school. The first day of his residency was supposed to be October 8th, and October 7th obviously interfered with that, and he led the attack. He was on the front lines leading the attack, and he lost his life. And so, may his memory be a blessing. What memory do you want the world to have of your son?
He was just a great human being. As you said, after spending 15 years in special ops and carrying out operations that are still classified, he was chosen to lead the division into Gaza on the first day of the war. And he said to his brother there in the picture, who was one of his soldiers, he said, listen, we may be afraid of war, but let's get in there and bring our hostages home. He was someone who loved people, loved life. I could see him tomorrow leading negotiations with our neighbors to enter into an era of normalization and peace. He was that kind of person who could lead battle, but also lead the battle for peace. He was just a beautiful human being, the oldest of my 8 children, and the father of 6. He left me 6 beautiful orphans, and many, many fond memories. But I know that he knew what he was fighting for, and that's for humanity, really, for the Jewish people, the Jewish state, for democracy in the Middle East, and for civility between nations.
Today you see a victorious Jerusalem, a joyous Jerusalem. Pretty remarkable when you consider that Israel is facing a war on 7 fronts. We talked with Yigal Carmon from MEMRI about one of the biggest threats facing Israel right now, Iran. Take a look. Yigal, many people are expecting a possible strike by Israel against Iran's nuclear facilities, or the possibility of a joint U.S.-Israel attack. What are you hearing? What are you seeing there in MEMRI.org?
We see that the Iranians are taking it very seriously, and suddenly they change their known position. We don't talk to America. No, they correspond with America. They are scared to their bones that it's coming. And indeed, the administration realizes that there is no solution to the whole Middle East no plans, no agreements, no nothing, as long as Iran is there with this regime. Now, we talked about it in the past that you don't need to operate armies. You just have to support the minorities, the ethnic minorities in Iran that are struggling for their freedom under the yoke of the Ayatollahs. This would have been enough. You don't need American boots on the ground, no planes in Diego Garcia, nothing. You just help those who need and deserve your support. But then I would also put a question, why do we need planes in Diego Garcia? For that, there is the biggest CENTCOM base in Qatar. You need to bring them from Diego Garcia? Yes, because the Qataris would not allow to use them from a CENTCOM base. And people would tell you, oh, we have to accommodate Qatar because the biggest American base. Well, when America needs that space, they cannot use it. And they stated it. So they need, but what I'm saying, and I'll repeat, you don't need to go to war against Iran. Support the ethnic minorities that are being downtrodden, that are being repressed, that fight for their lives and their freedom. Support them. Leave it for them.
Yeah. And one final question, Yigal. There are demonstrations right now in Turkey against President Erdogan. What is happening right there, and where do you see it going?
What dictators never learn is that their repression doesn't work forever. And lo and behold, Mr. Imamoglu, who was the mayor of Istanbul, gathered support of the people that already, after so many years, rebel against Erdogan. And Erdogan put him in jail and removed the right of the university to give titles, and so he is not anymore a doctor or whatever his dissertation was, I'm not sure. In any case, the people, the youth, realized that this cannot go on anymore. And Erdogan did not realize it yet, so he's facing it. Today, there will be a mega demonstration in Turkey against the dictator. Like in Iran, dictators never learn, except in the hard way.
Could he be overthrown?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In a country of 90 million, the people have their say. In times it's weakness, but then when the understanding reaches the minds and hearts of people, no dictator can stand against tens of millions.
Freed hostage Sagui Dekel Chen suffered through hell as a captive in Gaza. Now he's been freed and reunited with his family. And now he's sharing a message of hope in the best way he knows, through music. Here's his story from CBN News Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl.
Less than 2 weeks after his release from Hamas captivity, Israeli-American Sagui Dekel Chen recorded a song, Karen Shemesh, which is Hebrew for sunbeam.
אני לא זמר, אני אבא ששר. המוזיקה ליוותה אותי לאורך כל החיים, ובמיוחד בשנה וחצי בהם הייתי בשבי. הייתי שר לעצמי בראש כל היום.
This singing dad recently only met his third daughter, Shachar Mazal, who is now 15 months old after his release. In his video, Sagui says he would sing this song to his first two daughters, Bari and Gali, before being kidnapped, and that he kept singing it to them even during his time in captivity. Sagui's father, Jonathan Dekel Chen, says his son has always had an interest in music.
He's not a musician, but a musical guy, for sure. He wrote a number of songs that will be actually performed at some point. They're now being put to music, and at some point he will be performing them.
Jonathan adds, singing this particular song, written by Benaya Barabi, is Sagui's way of giving back.
And so he had an urge to give hope to Israelis who support the cause of the hostages, which is well over 80% of our population in Israel, and to somehow perhaps give hope to those hostages who he left behind.
In the video, Sagui speaks to the hostages.
הנפש שלכם צריכה גוף חזק. הגוף שלכם צריך נפש חזקה. תנגבו את הדמעות, לכו לפינה של החדר ותשאירו איתי.
The Dekel Chen family shares a history with music and helping others. In 2014, Jonathan, Sagui, his brother Itai, and a young woman, Tamar Kedem Simantov, established the Bikurim Youth Village for the Arts.
We created together a national village for the arts in Israel, a residential boarding school whose purpose was to offer and provide to highly talented, highly motivated high school age kids in Israel from the vast part of the Israeli population who are to get a really great arts education.
On October 7th, Hamas terrorists murdered Tamar, her husband Johnny, and their 3 small children in their home in Kibbutz Nir Oz. That led to her former students' desire to honor Tamar's memory and sing songs on behalf of Sagui. When they chose to sing Keren Shemesh, Sagui decided to join them.
And the musicians that you see playing with him and singing are all alumni of that school. They created something called the Tamari Project. And they've already produced, I'd say, about a dozen original songs among them. And it's dedicated, this project, to the memory of Tamar Kedem Simantov. She was also the first director of the youth village, and in hope for the release of hostages. So it was kind of a perfect fit, and is the way that Sagui is communicating his message is going to be more through art than so straightforward media or things like that.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Kiryat Gat, Israel.
Today is a day when you see Jerusalem at its best. Runners from all over the world coming to enjoy the sights of Jerusalem and the beautiful spring weather. Here's more of the sights from today's race.
3, 2, 1.
בוקר טוב ירושלים.
It's a holiday for Jerusalem, and I'm very excited to open the 14th marathon in Jerusalem. And we are talking about 40,000 people that came in the morning to start the run.
We're here to remind ourselves and all the world there are still those who are waiting. And I'm here to say, don't forget and don't give up until the last hostage comes home.
Well, that's all for this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Thanks for joining us, enjoying the 14th annual Jerusalem Marathon. Remember, you can follow us on social media and on CBN apps. And please continue to pray for the peace of Jerusalem, for the protection of IDF soldiers and all those caught in harm's way, and especially for the freedom of all the hostages. I'm Chris Mitchell. For all of us here in the Jerusalem Bureau, we'll see you next time on Jerusalem Dateline.